नाशिवरलागी हरिनाम महामंत्र लो tumi magi. I have brought the medicine to eradicate the disease of illusion. Now pray for this Harinam Mahamantra and take it. Bhakti Vinoda Prabhu Charane Puriya Say Harinama Mantra Loilu Magiya. Bhakti Vinod fell at the lotus feet of Lord Gauranga, and after begging for the holy name, he received that Mahamantra. Shri Shri Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Krishna, Krishna
की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, समवेद भक्त वृंद की जय, गौर हरि प्रेमानंद। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। 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 नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु भागवत सेवया भवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्णा श्रवणकीर्तनः यन्तस्त्वयि भद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। Srimad Bhagawatam, Canto 3, Chapter 16, text number 16 and 17. Rishayauchuhu na vayam bhagavan vidmas na vayam bhagavan vidmas avadeva chikirshitam krito me anugrahas cheti krito me anugrahas cheti yad adhyakshah prabhashase yad adhyakshah prabhashase navayam bhagavan vidmas avadeva chikirshitam krito me anugrahascheti yad adhyakshah prabhashase navayam bhagavan vidmas tavadeva chikirshitam krito me anugrahascheti yad adhyakshah prabhashase. Please chant.
Navayam Bhagavan Vidmas,
Navayam Bhagavan Vidmas,
Tavadeva Chikirshitam,
Tavadeva Chikirshitam,
Krito me nugrahascheti,
Krito me nugrahascheti,
Yadadyaksha prabhashase,
Yadadyaksha prabhashase.
Navayam Bhagavan Vidmas,
Navayam Bhagavan Vidmas,
Tavadeva Chikirshitam,
Tavadeva Chikirshitam,
Krito me nugrahascheti,
Krito me anugrahascheti
Yadadyaksha prabhashase,
yadakshah prabhashase.
Navayam Bhagavan Vidmas,
Navayam bhagavan vidmas
Tavadeva Chikirshitam,
tavadeva chikirshitam
Krito me nugrahascheti,
krito me anugrahascheti
Yadadyaksha prabhashase,
yadakshah prabhashase.
Navayam Bhagavan Vidmas,
Navayam bhagavan vidmas
Avadeva Chikstristam,
tavadeva chikirshitam
Krito me nugrastiki,
krito me anugrahascheti
Yad Adyakasha Prabrasyase,
Yadabhakshah prabhashase. Word to word meaning Rishya Uchuhu. The sages said, Na, not, Vayam, we, Bhagavan, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, with Maha, did know, Tava, your, Deva, O Lord, Chikir wish for us to do, Kritaha, has been done, may, unto me, Anugraha, favor, cha, and iti, thus, yat, which, Adhyaksha, the supreme ruler, Prabhashase, you say. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The sages said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are unable to know what you intend for us to do. For even though you are the supreme ruler of all, you speak in our favor as if we had done something good for you. Please repeat. The sages said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are unable to know what you have, what you intend for us to do. For even though you are the supreme ruler of all, you speak in our favor as if we had done something good for you. The sages could understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is above everyone, was speaking as if he were in the wrong. Therefore, it was difficult for them to understand the words of the Lord. They could understand, however, that the Lord was speaking in such a humble way just to show them his all-merciful favor. Text 17. Brahmanasya param daivam Brahmanaha kilate prabhu Vipranam deva devanam Bhagavan atma daivatam. O Lord, you are the supreme director of the Brahmanical culture. You are considering the Brahmanas to be in the highest position is your example for teaching others. Actually, you are the supreme worshipable deity, not only for the gods, but for the Brahmanas also. But in the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. There are undoubtedly many demigods, the chiefs of whom are Brahma and Shiva. Lord Vishnu is the Lord of Brahma and Shiva, not to speak of the Brahmanas in this material world. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord is very favorable towards all activities performed according to Brahmanical culture or the qualities of control of the senses and mind, cleanliness, forbearance, faith in scripture, and practical and theoretical knowledge. The Lord is the super soul of everyone. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord is the source of all emanations. Thus, he is also the source of Brahma and Shiva. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Namo Brahmana Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvishe Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we see here the beautiful conversation happening between the four Kumaras and Lord Narayan, Krishna, Vishnu, Lord Narayan. And yesterday we were a little bit perplexed or confused because the four Kumaras were also confused, right? And especially our Kusha Mataji was confused too. Am I right? And we all were, because the great personalities like four Kumaras, if they can be perplexed, what to speak of us? Although it's because if we hear all the instructions or all the different verses we saw before where Narayan is speaking to all the four Kumaras, they are very simple to understand. But at the same time, they were perplexed. And the answer here is in this purport. Srila Prabhupada says, what did he say? The sages could understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is above everyone, was speaking as if he were in the wrong. As if who? As if the Lord himself was in wrong. Therefore, it was difficult for them to understand the words of the Lord. They could understand, however, that the Lord was speaking in such a humble way just to show them His all-merciful favor. So that's the answer right here. And the next verse, we take a little bit of a turn from the perplexed state or confused state. O Lord, you are the supreme director of the Brahmanical culture. You are considering the Brahmanas to be the highest position is your example for teaching others. Actually, you are the supreme worshipable deity, not only for the gods, but for the Brahmanas also. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out two different occasions, the Bhagavad Gita. So in the first place, he says, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord is very favorable towards all activities performed according to Brahmanical culture, or the qualities of control of the senses and mind, cleanliness, forbearance, faith in scripture, and practical and theoretical knowledge. So anybody knows which verse or which chapter is he referring, or what is the context is he referring to in the Bhagavad Gita? So let's see that. It's in Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, text 4 and 5. We will chant this verse. Very beautiful. These are the qualities of a Brahmana. And also, so today we will kind of go in a little bit of the qualities of the Brahmanas, and also on another aspect of what a Brahmana and a Vaishnava is. Because other day we were talking and asked a question to Maharaj, that when we say Namo Brahmana Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, that a Hita, that Krishna is wanting the hit of the or he is the well-wisher of the Brahmanas. So what does it mean exactly in the sense? Does he mean the well-wishing for the Smarta Brahmanas? Smarta, not smart. They are smart too because they are scholarly. So what are the Smarta Brahmanas? Anybody? It's simple to understand. Yes, the Jnanis are the scholarly Brahmanas. Although the real purpose, Brahma Janati Iti Brahmana, the one who knows Brahman, one who knows the Supreme Lord, is a Brahmana. But most of the time, especially in this Kali Yuga, we have the Brahmanas who are smart Brahmanas, or Brahmanas just for the namesake, in the sense that they may be very expert in reciting all the wonderful shlokas or verses from the Shastras. Just like even in India, even today we have Dvivedi, Trivedi, Chaturvedi. So what does that mean? Dvivedi means two Vedas. Those who have studied two Vedas. Atharva, we have Samaveda, Atharva, Yajur, and Rig Veda. So those who have studied or have knowledge of two Vedas incomplete, they are Dvivedis. Those who are three Vedis will be three Vedas, and Chaturvedis are four Vedas. And it may sound easy, but it's not actually easy. It takes a lot of time. Even if you go to Gurukul and just to study one Veda will take you a few years, if not a couple years, but at least minimum I would say 5 years for each Veda. So you can imagine to complete all four Vedas or become a Chaturvedi, how much effort, time and effort you have to put. So coming back to our point that the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, so what is the difference? And there's a very beautiful pastime in the Krishna book, if anybody remembers, Brahmana and Vaishnava. I'm going to give some hints here. So this pastime happened after the stealing of the garments of young gopis by Krishna. Yes, you raised your hand.
Yeah, Krishna sent the coward boys for foodstuffs from the Brahmins.
Yes.
He said, don't bother us, we're engaged in ritualistic
Very correct,
activities.
which means he's reading Krishna book every day. Very good. So the title of the chapter is what is the title of the chapter? Brahmana's wife, deliverance of the Brahmana's wives who were performing the Vedic sacrifices. So these were the Brahmanas who were performing all these sacrifices, and Krishna knew about it. They were the Smarta Brahmanas. They were performing Vedic sacrifices, and Krishna knew that they were performing these sacrifices, this particular sacrifice called Angirasa. And what was the purpose of that sacrifice? For elevation to the heavenly planets. Right? That was their purpose. It wasn't that, it's like Krishna says in Bhaktaram Yagyatapasam, he's saying in Bhagavad Gita that I am the ultimate benefactor of any yajna you do, but that was not their purpose. So in this particular pastime, all the coward boys, this is after the stealing of the garments of the young gopis by Krishna. So these coward boys, the friends of Krishna and Balaram, Subala, Madhumangal, and all of them, Bhadrasen, they were very hungry, right? And who will they go to if they are hungry? Of course to Krishna, right? Because Krishna knows the tricks of how to get food or butter or whenever there is demand from all his friends. So Krishna and Balaram, so they say, okay, we are in the middle of the forest and of course we can have fruits and whatnot, but you're hungry, we should have some nice feast. And the Brahmanas in the next village, they are performing these Vedic sacrifices, so which means they have prepared very wonderful Chappan Bhog, 56 different varieties of items. So you should go and ask them for some food, right? But then don't take our names. Don't say that it's for Krishna and Balaram. You go and beg charity, but don't mention our names, because if you mention our names, they might not give you, right? Because I am a son of a Vaishya and Balaram here is a son of Kshatriya. So knowing that, because charity is usually given to the Brahmanas, right? So we are not Brahmanas in that sense. So don't mention our names. So the coward boys, the friends of Krishna, go to the Brahmanas. They were having this wonderful, bhoga or offerings ready for the yajna, and they ask them for the food. And they exactly do what Krishna told them not to do. What do? They say, Krishna and Balaram send us to get some food, right? And what happens? What was the answer from the Brahmanas? Anybody knows? Was it yes or no? Huh? False. Neither of it. They just kept quiet. They didn't even respond. They were silent. They didn't respond to their plea. And this reminds me, when we used to in Waikiki, the Sankirtan when we do in Waikiki, and sometimes you tell the Japanese and they will say hi, like very excited, and they're almost going to buy the book. That's what you think. Hi means yes, hi, right? And then when the time comes to pull out the money to actually buy the book, and they just keep quiet. They just go silent. And then so we, because we feel that, oh yes, they were so positive, and which means they're ready to take it, and so they will say neither yes, neither no, right? They will just be quiet, or they will say, something like that, like, but which is an indication that actually it's no. But they don't want to say, because, which we found much later, that it's in the Japanese culture never to say no. They never would say no, even if it means no, the answer is no, but they won't say it. So here also, it's frustrating, right? Because you're waiting, and then there's no response. And then we figure out, I got the trick that I would just count until 10 seconds, and whatever, if they don't respond, then arigato gozaimasu, thank you very much for your time, which means they can go on their way. So here also, there was no response, and it was so much frustrating for the coward boys. And they came back to Krishna and said, sorry, we couldn't do it, we were unsuccessful. And then what is the advice Krishna gives? Very beautiful. Krishna says here, after hearing the statements from his friends, the Supreme Personality of Godhead smiled. He just smiled. And what did he say? He told them that they should not be sorry for being refused by the Brahmanas, because that is the way of begging. He convinced them that one who is engaged in collecting or begging should not think that he will be successful everywhere. So this is a very inspiring for the book distributors, because you approach 10 people, sometimes 8 to 9 will say no, but one will say yes, and that one will cover for all that 8 or 9. So it's, one has to be very positive. We have to be ready to hear that answer no. He may be successful in some places, but that should not be cause for disappointment. Lord Krishna then asked all the boys to go again, but this time to whom?
Wives.
To the wives of the Brahmanas, because they were his devotees. And we know, of course, what happened. They went, and as soon as they mentioned the name of Krishna Balaram, immediately the wives of the Brahmanas, they got all the food ready, prepared in the pots, garden pots. And they gave it to the friends of Krishna, but they said, no, we would come with you, and because we want to see Krishna and Balaram in the forest. So they themselves brought personally all this wonderful food stuff to Krishna and Balaram for their pleasure. And as soon as they had their darshan, their heart, they immediately, it says there in the Krishna book that, Krishna entered through their eyes into their heart, and they embraced the Lord. So this is the milan, this is the meeting of the devotees with the Lord, and these are the Vaishnavas. Right? The Vaishnavas, they're always longing to meet the Lord, to embrace the Lord. And there Prabhupada writes that it doesn't mean, because it's almost like merging, just like the Mayavadi philosophy of merging with the Supreme Lord. But it's not the case. He says there that the wives of the Brahmanas, they still maintain their identity, and Krishna maintained his identity. It's not that they all lost their identity, just like the Mayavadis would say. And then of course we know, how that wonderful pastime went on, because when they came and they said, oh, we gave up everything to come bring prasad, food for you. And Krishna said, okay, thank you. And he's very pleased, of course. And he says, now you can go back, to your house or homes. And they said, we gave up everything when we came here, and now you are sending us. They will not take us back. And what did Krishna say? Rest assured, they will take you back, because Krishna is there in everyone's heart, right? And he can change their minds, their thoughts. And when they went back, they were accepted by their families, their husbands or their fathers or their relatives. And this shows the difference between the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, because the Vaishnavas, they are ready to give up everything, just like we read here every day morning. Ashrishava padaratam pinashtamam adarshnan marmahatam karotu va yatha tatha va vidadatu lamparto mat prana nathastu saeva naparha. That You may embrace me by, what is that last sentence? Can you please read? You are near there. I know no one but Krishna, that's on that Shikshashtaka, as my Lord. And by embrace, or make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. Right? So this is the mood of the Vaishnavas. They are ready to give up everything for Krishna. And we see furthermore that actually the Brahmanas, they felt sorry too. Right? They understood their mistake, that they said no to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like that story wherein Narad Muni comes and asks the cobbler and the Brahmana, right, how much lifetime would the cobbler take to go back to Godhead? Same lifetime. But for the Brahmanas, they were the smarter Brahmanas, and it would take several lifetimes. So similar situation, although they were sorry and they wanted to go apologize to Krishna, but then they did not go. Why? Anybody knows the answer? They wanted to go beg forgiveness from Krishna, the Brahmanas, but they did not do so because they were fearful of Kamsa. So this is the contrast. The wives, they didn't think of all that. They just immediately, as soon as they heard Krishna Balaram, they immediately went, giving up. That's what Krishna is wanting when he says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is that verse 18 chapter? Surrender unto me. Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. So this is the one verse that Prabhupada is referring to in the purport, and actually there are all these qualities. I can go on, we can go on in the purport. Prabhupada very nicely describes, but we have very short time. So I'll just read maybe first line of all these qualities, just because also Prabhupada mentions it in this purport. So buddhi or intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective, and knowledge refers to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. Then asamoha, freedom from doubt and delusion. Then what is another quality? Control of the senses means that the senses should not be used for unnecessary personal enjoyment. Bhava, birth, should be understood to refer to the body. As far as the soul is concerned, there is neither birth nor death. And ahimsa, so as soon as we hear ahimsa, what comes to our mind? So ahimsa means violence, ahimsa is non-violence. And we think immediately about ahimsa milk, right? Especially the vegans, they will think ahimsa milk, because we don't want to inflict any pain, any violence towards the other living entities. But interesting enough, Prabhupada is giving a completely different explanation of ahimsa. He says ahimsa, non-violence, with that means that one should not do anything which will put others into misery or confusion. And he says here, ahimsa means that people should be trained in such a way that the full utilization of the human body can be achieved. The human body is meant for spiritual realization, so any movement or any commissions which do not further that end commit violence on the human body. It's very interesting way of looking at this ahimsa or non-violence. And then, of course, Prabhupada ends the purport, this current purport, saying, the Lord is the super soul of everyone. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord is the source of all emanations. Thus, he is also the source of Brahma and Shiva. So, what verse is he referring to? Aham sarvasya prabho. Thank you. This is a Bhagavad Gita Chatushloki. Aham sarvasya prabho, that everything emanates from me. Aham sarvasya prabho. Matta sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. And the earlier verse which we described, Prabhupada in the purport ends by saying, almost going to end here, this last verse, 18:12. Well, actually we can chant, it's a very beautiful verse. Yasyasta bhaktir bhagavati akinchana. It's there on the screen. Yasyasti bhaktir Bhagavate Akinchana
Shasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana
Sarvair Gunestatra Samasate Suraha
Sarvagunastara Samaste Suraha
Harava Bhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna Manorathena Sati Dhavato Bahi. So which means all the demigods and their exalted qualities such as religion, knowledge and renunciation become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Also very clearly explained that the Vaishnavas, they are automatically Brahmanas because they have all the good qualities. Yasyasa bhaktir bhagavati akinchana. Sarvair gunair samasate sura. Sura means the demigods. All the good qualities are there in the body of a Vaishnava. So that is the conclusion of today's purport by Srila Prabhupada. We can end here if anyone has any more questions, comments, additions. Anyone? Yes.
I also was wondering, so the Brahmana's wives and Brahmanas would hear the same stories of Krishna and Balaram, but only wives who understood that they are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and develop that love. And also we know that bhakti comes from heart to heart, devotee to devotee. So how did it happen that the wives had it and the husbands didn't?
Very good question. Also a tough question. Just like we are sitting in the class, sometimes, as from my perspective, let's say, I'm the speaker, and for my perspective, if everyone looking at me, which means they are hearing, right? But then sometimes it happens that they may be looking at you, but their thought is somewhere else. They're thinking of something else. I'm guilty also because I may be sitting right here next to Maharaj sometimes, and I am present here looking at Maharaj, but completely in a different world. So same way, although they may be in the same family, but the Brahmanas, because the Brahmanas' job is also to maintain the family, right? So yajan yajan patan patan, and they are getting smarta Brahmanas, karmakandi Brahmanas, they go and do all these ceremonies, so they get paid to do that. So in one sense, that's kind of a work. Right? And so they may not have that bhava or that attraction for, although they are using Krishna's scriptures and name and everything, all the procedures given, the ceremonies. But then, it's for the karma mishra bhakti. That bhakti is there is some bhakti, but it's karma mishra. There's some, mishra means there's mix of some material motives, some desires for personal gain. Right? But in the case of Brahmana's wives, they were constantly engaged in hearing of Krishna and they wanted to see Krishna. Right? And women, Prabhupada writes also in one of the purports that women by nature are very simple and they can easily take up Krishna consciousness. Right? And we see that practically even in our movement. We see most or the majority of the devotees, they are women. Right? If anybody has done that statistics, they can find it. And women by nature are very simple, and so they get attracted towards the Lord very easily, and they are hearing all the time the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram. So they are definitely having that longing to see the Lord and that bhakti. So, and their bhakti is this. It's not mixed with any karma. It's not karma mishra bhakti. That's why they gave up everything as soon as there was a call to go see Krishna. They didn't care for their families, right? Yes, Prabhu?
I was just wondering, just to add on to that, is also maybe the case that sometimes it comes up, like following the rules and regulations without really understanding why you're following rules and regulations.
Right.
The whole point of following the Vedas is not to like know how to do so many rules and know so many shlokas or this or that. The whole point is to develop love and devotion. If it doesn't
Vedesha sarvairaham
if it
eva
doesn't
vidya.
develop love and devotion,
Right.
it's kind of useless. It's almost like academics. You know, they know.
Just like other day Kusha Mataji she was mentioning, like we are singing all these prayers, but if there is, we can't go on for years singing Guru Puja word to word perfectly, but if there is no bhava involved, there's no feeling involved in that prayers we chant or we do, then there's no what do you call gati, there's no
No soul.
no soul in what we're doing. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, it almost seemed like when the wives of the Brahmins were serving Krishna, it was kind of like the same situation as when the gopis were going to see Krishna for the rasa dance.
Right.
You got that same type of mood.
Yes, there's complete surrender, not caring for any material connections or material relations.
Plus they thought they were the doers and their stuff was so important that they're missing the point.
Does that answer, or maybe Maharaj can add something? I mean, this is how I see it, but Maharaj can answer. Any other thought on that?
Well, there are also previous lives.
Yes, of course.
This isn't, for the wise, it's clearly not the first time that they heard about Krishna and Bhagavan. So that has, and I think you had it right, that it has to do with the receptivity of the hearts. And the Brahmins, they had their hearts blocked with all their pride.
Just like,
The wives' hearts were simple and open.
right. Just like I perform sometimes all these Vedic ceremonies, wedding or different other ceremonies. And it's, in reality it's all connected with Krishna and Krishna Prityatam, for pleasing Lord Krishna, whatever we are doing that samskaras. But when we do, because I had recently not met, but it was over what do you call that, chat, whatever, online, yeah, Zoom. So he was online and he was, because the Yajman, they wanted ceremony in certain way and I wasn't aware of. They wanted Gandharva Vivaha. We don't do Gandharva Vivaha. I mean, there's no specific ceremony for Gandharva Vivaha. And he knew he's a Karmakandi Brahman. And he was, telling me what to do, what not to do. And basically the root is everything connected to Krishna, but then they have added so many things with the mantras for demigods, for Ganesha, for so many other demigods. So maybe just for the sake of, I would say that to impress the Yajman so that they get some more donations or whatever. But the original samskaras, it's only for Krishna Prityartham, for pleasing Krishna. Of course, the other demigods are invited as guests, but the main Archa Vigraha, the worshipable deity is Krishna.
They want all kinds of fancy stuff for Gandharva Vivaha,
Right.
which means eloping.
Yes. Of course, the parents were there too. It's, they didn't want the big ceremony, because they wanted to do the bigger ceremony in India, because the girl's parents were still in India and she was their only daughter, and they were from South India, and South India, when they do the wedding, they do really pakka, like really few hours of wedding, and they have all these very elaborate arrangements. And so, but here they wanted to do a short one, just for the sake that they are married, for the certificate and all that. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, please.
Yes. Thank you very much, Grantaraj. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.